We actually got started in 1877, and it was about 25 men that got started. They were there to try to help, sell houses and appreciate the American dream and get it started. So we actually, believe it or not, were the beginning of the American dream and the National Association of Realtors, which was actually started in 1908. There was kind of a movement when the World's Fair was here in 1904. And so there were 100 delegates that were brought to the World's Fair from all over, and they decided they wanted to organize together. So it took them about 4 years to really kind of get organized. Actually, the first president was from St. Louis, August H. Frederick. And you think, hey, this is a great thing for St. Louis. Unfortunately, he ended up going to prison for 10 years. He absconded with a bunch of money, cheated a bunch of people out of, signed deeds that he shouldn't have signed, and did a lot of things. So I guess you've got to learn from history, and you don't want to repeat it. So really, we created the Code of Ethics, I believe, in 1913.
The thing about real estate was it really never started with the structure and the rules that we have today. It started, think of the Oklahoma land rush, where people just rushed out and grabbed their piece of land. And was it recorded properly? Was it surveyed? Was it protected in any way? It really wasn't. There were no rules. It was the Wild West. And a lot of that carried over, so it was really buyer beware. So groups like the St. Louis Real Estate Exchange, those were groups that put order to the chaos.
We at St. Louis Realtors were part of that process and continue to this day to be very, very active, obviously, in all of these matters related to the Code of Ethics.
And so we're in 1947. We had just finished World War II. America was feeling great, feeling really strong. And a lot of the GIs were coming back. A lot of those people who originally resided in the South started migrating north where the jobs were in kind of the big cities like St. Louis that had a lot of manufacturing going on at the time. And unfortunately, the way St. Louis was structured is we were very segregated at that time. And this is the basis of a really interesting Supreme Court landmark case that was based here in St. Louis called Shelley versus Kramer. Shelley family was coming up from Mississippi. They created basically a straw man to buy this home because what it said in the covenants, and this is how people kind of kept segregation going in those days, is it said if an African-American person bought this home, that it would revert back to the prior owner, which was obviously white. It was first agreed to that it was okay for them to own this home, and then it got up to the Missouri Supreme Court, and that got reversed. And then it made it up to the United States Supreme Court in 1948. They reversed the state Supreme Court and basically relied upon the 14th Amendment, which says that states cannot restrict anybody living in a home. And that was really the first moment in the United States that the American dream really became available for not just white people, but for all Americans.
When my father got his license and, became a real estate professional, he was not allowed, to join National Association of Realtors and St. Louis Association of Realtors. They didn't, permit African Americans to be a part of that. So I learned a lot about the steering, the block busting, and people would have to buy properties for others in order to live in the communities that they wanted to live in. Some years ago, I made the case for him to be recognized for his years of service, and that's when I found out that he wasn't a member all these years. He's now Realtor Emeritus and recognized at the National Association level. Having a lot of conversations over the last couple of years, there's been a real focus on inclusion and inclusivity and, righting the wrongs of the past and moving forward in a positive way. We did have the Ferguson event. It was a real black eye for St. Louis. That being said, I think that it opened the doors for a lot of communication. I've just seen some conversations happen, and out of those conversations, some real positive activity has taken place here at the association.
St. Louis has had its share of challenges. Let's be honest about that. It's still a work in progress. and our organization is woven into the fabric of St. Louis. There's certainly a lot of history, much of it to embrace, some of it maybe to mourn, but the future looks pretty good as well. We have a great diversity, not just in the traditional sense of ethnic diversity, but also diversity of backgrounds, diversity of thoughts, diversity of political and religious beliefs. We think of ourselves as a family, and often, instead of the Realtor organization, we say the Realtor family. It's interesting and often a contradiction. You have a bunch of competitors. But when they come here and they work on a committee or a task force, certainly members of our board, the competitiveness goes away and our family works for the common good.
Well, I started it when I was president of the real estate board, the Realtors Housing Assistance Fund, which was for the homeless. Now we're giving a lot of the money to rebuilding St. Louis, and that helps the elderly that can't fix up their homes.
April 30th, 2016, collaborating with Rebuilding Together, the St. Louis Realtors. We went into the wonderful city of Pagedale and, renovated homes and, helped out our underserved. We were down at the Boys and Girls Club, Herbert Hoover, Old North. We spent the whole day with the kids. We filled up backpacks as the St. Louis Realtors and, we gave them out to the kids at the Boys and Girls Club, and the looks on their faces were priceless.
We've really changed from the days of Chestnut Street with 3 people in the office to a major organization that is working to protect homeownership and to support its members.
In 2016, we became the St. Louis Realtors, and a focus not so much on the technology and the building, but a focus on the members.
While technology continues to be at the forefront, you have to have that relationship and that human touch. Regardless of where the association is 140 years from now, we'll always still need that communication and that relationship that we get through the association.
We had a great association when I started, and it's even better now. And I'm really excited at the direction that things have gone. We've really done a great job of reaching back to the community to make sure that they know that as realtors, we do a lot more than just help people buy houses.
I think we're going to be even more recognized on a national level. We've got great ideas, we've got great leadership, and I just think our profile is going to grow even larger.
I think we're going to have a great year coming up, and I think Barry's going to do a great job.
What St. Louis Realtors are really going to be working on this next year is really concentrate on economic development, how we can kind of take the assets of St. Louis and people that are coming to town like NGA and figure out how to catapult that into more growth, more jobs, and more housing that'll help our school districts and help our children.
And we are looking forward to, community engagement. Collectively, we can help St. Louis, the entire city of St. Louis, move forward in the best way. Volunteering, becoming a part of the issues, helping everybody to move forward, I think that's where it is.
Regardless of who you are, if you're a large firm or a small firm, where you live, where you work, I think that we have finally figured out that we're all better together and we're stronger together.
140 years old, all that history, all that dedication to get us to the point we are today, what I think is a pivotal time in our history, but it is fun to celebrate the successes over the years that so many dedicated leaders have contributed to. I'm excited about the next 140.